This poster is entitled North Central Texas Heat Waves and Drought in Response to Anthropogenic Induced Climate Change. Global and U.S. temperatures have been rising since the Industrial Revolution, and you can see here the U.S. trace for the U.S. temperature. So this talk will focus on looking at three different things: soil moisture, temperature, and ultimately precipitation. Bone ratio is calculated from latent and sensible heat fluxes. I will not be discussing the pressure as it's difficult to measure from CMIP-6. The objective is to estimate the probable frequency of drought and heat waves in north central Texas through the end of the 21st century using CMIP-6 model output. In order to conduct the study, monthly and daily temperature, precipitation data sets were acquired from National Center for Atmospheric Research. All models had to be regridded to a 1-by-1 grid system in order to calculate ensemble averages. From the monthly data sets, bone ratio and standard precipitation indexes were calculated. And from the daily precipitation for excessive precipitation and then temperatures above 38 degrees C were examined. Total soil moisture is important because it provides the moisture for evaporation. And in the top 10 centimeters is where most of that will come from. In this diagram, you can see that there is, when compared to 1991 to 2020, there is a deficit for most of the century. It's not a great one until we get to 2041 and 2050. We are looking at this area right here. Bone ratio is the ratio between sensible and latent heat fluxes. As the ratio increases, it becomes drier, and this shows that for the first part of the century, the study area was in the temperate to semi-arid landscape classification, and it does get a little wetter toward the end of the century. The 38-degree days above normal, you can see that from 2040 to the end of the century, those are increasing. The average in the 1991 to 2020 reference period was about 20 days per summer, and by the time we get to 2100, it is about over 100 days per summer. For a drought indicator, the standardized precipitation index was used, and as you can see, precipitation is very noisy, and as we average more and more of these records together, kind of smooths things out. By the time we get to the months averaged of 48, we can see that there is drought at the beginning of the century, and then we go out of drought conditions towards the end. So in conclusion, heat waves will increase by the end of the century from about 20 days at the beginning to 80 days per summer, or more than 80 days per summer. The season for droughts increases from July to August to May to September, and droughts will become less frequent, but maybe in more longer. And that's just